more vodka, no more
Bubble bath.
no more Tchaikovsky, no more
Bubbles.
In space.
Because it's impossible. Because
Vacuum.
I
learned to walk in the ways of light and truth, and I was told not to speak till I was spoken to. I heard it preached what I should and I should not do.
It's only your imagination to spin a space, ladies and gentlemen. Space is fake.
And this world's gonna see what I'm standing for.
What we need is common sense, we need balance. They're all stupid and they're proud, painted smiles on their mouths. I don't hang with bozos, homie, I can't be around you. Anyone who knows me knows my feet don't fit in clown shoes.
We'll know our disinformation campaign is complete when everything the American public believes is false.
So I'm going to take you through some of the modifications both to the spacecraft as well as the spacesuit. And what you'll see throughout these slides is that much of the development effort has really been focused on safely executing this spacewalk. Maybe first, I'm just going to paint a little bit more of a picture of the spacewalk and what to expect. So actually, about an hour onto orbit, we'll start preparations for the EVA, where we begin a pre-breathe protocol. And this pre-breathe is really designed to help. On flight day 2, we'll get pressurized in the suits and actually go through a mobility demo, where we step through the sequence and movements inside the spacecraft and really make sure there was nothing missed in our training, that we're confident before we step outside. And then flight day 3 is the spacewalk. So that morning, we'll go through system checkouts on both the life support system and the suits before all of us get pressurized on 100% oxygen. We'll complete the final pre-breathe on 100% oxygen before we vent the spacecraft. Once at vacuum, EV1 will open the hatch before EV1 and EV2 serially will go outside and complete the test matrix that Jared mentioned of suit mobility objectives. The remainder of the mission. And what you can see here is actually a new addition, an entirely new system, a nitrogen repress system. This is kind of a closeout shroud over 2 redundant nitrogen tanks that will be used to repressurize the spacecraft.
And now someone else is getting all your best.
With all of these life support system upgrades, obviously there's a ton of testing that needs to go into this. And that's both at a component level, but then also at a full-scale system level. So what you see here is the Dragon spacecraft actually going into a thermal vacuum chamber. And we ran the end-to-end sequence, both depressing the capsule, dwelling at vacuum, and then repressing the spacecraft using all the software, hardware, and integrated systems that we expect to use for this flight. So next, getting into what I actually noticed is on all of your badges, which I love, development of the EVA suit. So here it is. First generation SpaceX EVA suit, and I think it just looks so cool.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly. Like, we'd have way better CGI if it was fake.
I know we're all just feel so grateful to be able to test out this piece of technology. So what you see here is a design evolution of the new EVA suit. This is a design evolution from the IVA suit, the intravesicular activity suit. And it includes all sorts of technology, including a heads-up display, a helmet camera, an entirely new architecture for joint mobility. There's thermal insulation throughout the suit, including a copper and indium tin oxide visor that both provides thermal protection and solar protection. And then throughout, there's all sorts of redundancy, both in the oxygen supply feed to the suit, as well as all of the valves, all of the seals across the suit. It's an incredible suit. It's been a long journey to get here. So the SpaceX team didn't have the ability to put this really constantly evolving hardware into a pool. So they came up with a really novel solution of a suspension system that has kind of simulated physics that allows you to pressurize the suit, put on a harness, and actually go through operations as if you are weightless.
You keep saying normie.
Assumptions and biased conclusions immersed in a world full of lies and delusions. What would you do if you pulled back the curtain and saw who's controlling the scenes? Are you certain your version of truth is not an illusion of poppycock propaganda confusion?
You've been a messin' where you shouldn't have been a messin'. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you. Yeah.
The day that I drop, you'll never say that I'm not killing them.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthin'.
Cause when I am not, then I'ma stop pinning them in.
And you keep losing when you ought to not bet.
So sad, goddamn shame about it.
You keep saying when you ought to be a-changin'. Now what's right is right, but you ain't been right yet.
We're like watchmen, patrolling the towers. We seek to expose those abusing their powers. All the lost men, sleeper cells in the sanctums who hate what is truth, catapulting deception.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthin'. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do.
The world turned upside down. Load of other things ain't been insane. See the blues walk in our town. What you want in a million, cause you got that shotgun shine, shave my body. Don't in the bad sound with a blue moon in your eyes.
One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you.
Guess, swinging like the Mets, throwing the dice and taking all side bets.
I'm gonna be who I be. Everything from chasing the cat to on the tree. Let me see what I gotta see. Keep it true.
When you woke up this morning, everything was gone by half in your head. Go and take out.
But you won't take the sting out these words before I say them. If they said that shit is hot, then they told you wrong, clown niggas. You ain't got a chance at all. Big L Corleone too advanced for y'all.
You keep playing where you shouldn't be playing. And you keep thinking that you'll never get burned.
So it's a really cool analog environment. They created our ability to do this both kind of in a vertical orientation simulator with all of our flight software, all of our vehicle interior, and then also in a sideways configuration that you can see here to support manual hatch operations, all of the tasks we need to perform to get in and out of the spacecraft. So it was this kind of constant iteration with the SpaceX team, both on the training side and the suit side. Well, we went through this progression. We went and learned a lot, frankly. You might think that
you keep
would be
lying
extremely cold
when you ought to be
of space,
truthing.
and actually we're more concerned about being too warm. So part of the learning we went through was trying to understand and quantify the thermal environment, what our metabolic rates will be. So what you see here is us pressurized in a suit. On top of that, you have an 8,000 meter down suit that you wear on Mount Everest. And then on top of that is another 8,000 meter down suit. So we're really trying to create an environment that doesn't have convection, looking at the thermals, looking at what we'll actually experience.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthing.
Another aspect of development on this journey, as Jared mentioned, since Dragon doesn't have an airlock, the entire spacecraft is going to be going to vacuum. And I mentioned this kind of novel pre-breathe protocol, where we're starting at about 14.5 psi-A and going down to about 8.65 as the last stage of our pre-breathe over a long period of time, slowly pull nitrogen out of our body and reduce our risk of decompression sickness. To validate this test, we actually spent 2 whole days in a vacuum chamber at NASA Johnson Space Center, and we went through the entire protocol, stepping down pressure and then ultimately performing a simulated EVA on breathing masks of 100% oxygen, stepping through the full operation. So here you can see us in the chamber during the simulated EVA transitioning onto oxygen masks.
And you keep losing when you
So this
ought
was
to
kind
not
of just a very cool experimental validation of this protocol.
Fetch, you get the fire department. I'll save the people.
Introducing Fetch Armstrong, Stretch Armstrong's incredible dog. Stretch him, bend him, squish him. Like a good dog, he always returns to his original shape. And now Stretch and Fetch also come in smaller action figure sizes. How do you do that? Stretchable, bendable, Fetch and Stretch Armstrong.
Help! We've been robbed!
Stop! Stop, evildoers!
Introducing super stretching superhero Stretch Armstrong. Yes, Stretch Armstrong. Now stretching fun farther than ever before. He bends, he stretches, even ties and knots, but always returns to his original shape.
How's he do that?
Your papa never told you about right and wrong.
Christoph, let me ask you, why do you think that Truman has never come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now?
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
The Hague for Christoph. Hello.
So I collapse, I'm spilling these raps long as you feel them. To the day that I drop, you'll never say that I'm not killing them.
The final crewed test was actually wearing these incredible suits into the vacuum chamber. So we returned to Johnson Space Center, and we were in the front chamber, or the front airlock of the chamber B, and we went through basically a full depress sequence, dwell at vacuum, and repress. Looking at some of the manual hatch operations in the chamber, but really getting to see firsthand what it'll feel like in the suits as we go to vacuum. So at this point, the suit has gone through an incredibly extensive testing campaign. Some of them have been mentioned, but we've covered everything from life cycle testing, pressure testing.
You keep saying when you ought to be a-changing. Now what's right is right, but you ain't been right yet. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you.
MMOD testing, extreme hot and colds testing, an entire campaign on ESD and flammability testing.
You keep saying
it's
when
been
you ought
a
to
really
be
impressive amount of work
a-changing.
by the SpaceX team to test this suit for flight. As a crew, we've spent probably more than 100 hours in this suit at this point. And here is actually a picture of the final checkout of our flight suit and the flight spacecraft at our test drive.
I just found me a brand
We're
new
really looking
box
forward to testing this first generation of the suit, and this is a great visual to kind of show you what to expect with this launch. So with that, I'll hand it over to
Like, everything looks too crisp.
yeah. You keep lying when you ought to be truthing. And you keep losing when you ought to not bet.
That's why we tell it, because you'll reject it. A lie so big you can't accept it. No, you can't. There's no such thing as outer space. We made it all up, yeah, space is fake. It's the greatest lie that's ever been told. The biggest trick you've ever been sold. We've been pushing this satanic lie. Space is a drug and everybody high.
The man with the suits and the tie looks me dead in the eye, and he lies. Yeah, he lies.
But we didn't really test any of those materials for, is it space hardened or whatever, a normal car in space, which I kind of like the absurdity of that.
These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you. Are you ready, Boots?
Mama always said you'd be the chosen one. She said, 1 in a million, you got to burn the shine.
Let me see what I gotta see. Keep it true.
When you woke up this morning, everything was gone by half, and your head would take down.
But you won't take the sting out these words before I say them.
You keep saying when you ought to be a-changing. Now what's right is right, but you ain't been right yet.
Hey, man, if you tell a lie big enough and frequently enough, it'll be believed. See, there's a solid barrier we can't get through. It's called the firmament between me and you. Go check Word of Braun's headstone. He knew about that firmament, dope.
But the ultimate and most dangerous test was a huge, specially constructed vacuum chamber.
They were able to pull all the air out to create a big vacuum, just like it would be on the moon. That way we could test our suits to make sure there was no leakage.
One such test narrowly avoided disaster. Jim LeBlanc was the test subject in the vacuum chamber. Cliff Hess, the supervising engineer outside.
Jim, while you're exercising, I'd like you to stay intermediate all the time, okay? I'm pretty cool right now. Okay, well, you'll warm up here in a minute, so let's stay right here if you can stand it.
The testing started just normally, like they all do. And Jim was at a vacuum in this, and Jim was at a vacuum in this, and Jim was at a vacuum in the spacesuit.
Well, I feel pretty good there.
With all the air sucked out, all that protected him was his pressurized suit. Then something happened.
I heard over the headset that he was losing suit pressure.
The tube pressurizing his suit had become disconnected. He was in serious danger.
There really wasn't any feeling. It was just happening so fast, trying to get the chamber back to a safe pressure and Jim to a safe pressure was inside the suit.
As I stumbled backwards, I could feel the saliva on my tongue starting to bubble just before I went unconscious. And that's kind of the last thing I remember.
Essentially, he had no pressure on the outside of his body. It's a very unusual case to get, and there's very little in the medical literature as to what happens when you have that. There's a lot of conjecture, but fluid is around.
Within 25 seconds, a co-worker, sitting in a partially pressurized antechamber and wearing an oxygen mask, was able to dash in. At the normal rate of repressurization, it would have taken 30 minutes to make the chamber safe. Hess repressurized it in just over
much faster than you would ever come down in an airplane. It would really hurt your ears if you
Are
did.
you ready, Boots?
Finally, it was safe to let her doctor in. Miraculously, LeBlanc had already regained consciousness.
When I stood up in the chamber, I felt fine. My ears ached a little bit from the forced rapid repressurization. And that's basically the only effect I had.
It was one of the few instances where anybody was ever exposed to that low of a pressure and lived to tell about it with no obvious damage.
Such an accident in space would have been fatal.